Not sure if this is going to be a winner tonight. Does nobody, I'm not sure if many people are on, but if anybody has any questions, right on, Justin. But I will get started probably just talking about this. I think I'm just going to go for it. It's been like 3 minutes. Thank you for the likes. Keep liking. Anybody that pauses on this, like it, tap the screen. And you know what? This is like totally, this green screen is killing me. I'm not sure why the lighting this time. But I put this up just so we can see what I'm talking about. Right on. So 5 people is enough. We've got it. If we're going to hang on. And if anybody has any questions about codependency or self-esteem, this is a really important topic. And I just put out, even though I don't look like I have any hair, I just put out a TikTok about the superego, which being more psychoanalytic, and thank you for all the likes if you're pausing and doing that and leaving, is that we have 3 parts of the mind. And we talk about it this way in order to conceptualize or figure out how to conceive of how the mind works. It's not that we have sections, though it's very clear that we have parts of our mind that function as in a more unconscious way, like the id. And the superego is an inner authority that acts as the authority over the ego and the unconscious. And so in the ego is more the persona and what we forward-facing part of ourselves. So when I talk about codependency and self-esteem, it comes from a couple different places. And the first place that it comes from, I do believe, is inside as far as self-esteem is concerned. I call it like the most internal seed. Like it is the center of our self. It's like, it is the seed. And definitely share this if you think this would be good for somebody else. But the self is the seed. And if you are codependent, if you have parents that did not nourish that seed, help you to understand yourself, help you to understand your emotions, modulate, regulate, get to know yourself, be interested in you. Instead, they were always interested in themselves, using you as a container. And I just did this masterclass for my emotional warrior community where I described it as the self is here and we're born with this. And we don't know, obviously, we're just children. We don't know we have a self or any sort of idea of ourselves in the center. And it's like a container. And the parent, the selfish parent, the parent that doesn't know, is constantly coming over with a rain cloud and pouring their feelings all over. Hey, Anna is pouring into our self-container their feelings, and they fill us up, and they don't recognize ours. And so our container, basically, our emotions start to leak out into our bodies, and we have to regulate these processes without any guidance, except for, maybe my guidance is I interpret with my concrete brain, meaning because I'm a child, I don't have complex ways of thinking. I interpret their behavior as I'm not important. Boom. Now we've got a pretty major self-esteem issue right from the get-go. So I had a great day, and that was me leading off with how quickly self-esteem and self-concept can be skewed by the minimal ability of a child to really be able to interpret what's going on and really need the parent to understand them and validate them and take interest in them. And when that doesn't happen, and instead they're the ones who are pouring into you their adult issues, yikes, and expecting you to contain all of that. Anybody have, but so I say that, and we do have a few people watching. Anybody relate to that? Anybody see more about what that means to them? I mean, as far as, can you relate to understand? I mean, self-esteem is this really kind of interesting, I think, kind of cryptic term. Meaning, like, how are we supposed to feel when we love ourselves? That's all is self. I love that. Yes, I feel that I've done this with my children. Okay, gotcha. In what way? I mean, explain that a little bit more. You've done this with you've been the rain cloud that rains into them. I think that if that's what you mean, I think, and so some of my posts, and I want to be really clear on that one too, is like, there are times that we're human and our children are around and they're witnessing something, and it's not a good idea actually to completely like, oh no, mommy's okay, and just go cry in another room. That's weird. I mean, you want to be human in front of somebody, but you do not want to, hey, Crypto Joe, it's about codependency and self-esteem and shame and the super ego. So if you got any of those going on, or you want to find out about any of those or know anybody, that's where we're at. Venting about adult issues in front of them or to them, but you're aware and you're here. So this is that super ego part. You want to change this. Why do you think that this happens to you? And then I'm gonna wait for a second. I wish that it was more interactive, like I could hear you. So I think that's the thing, is that, Brian, is that you have all the above going on. Single parent, and they're the only ones around. Good. I'm glad that you recognize that. That is exactly right. When we don't have anyone to talk to, and when we isolate and think we have to do it all for everyone all the time, and sometimes single parenting does require that of us in reality. But if we have a codependent tendency in our mind to need others to modulate our feelings because we've never been taught to modulate our own, then we can start to use our kiddos because of the isolation factor. Yeah, exactly. Here we go. Yeah, Mindy's on the same page. Codependent here for sure. Healing now that I'm fully self-aware. That's what you have to become. And fully self-aware, I think in some ways too, when we're complaining about our adult issues, at least, let's say this, let's a compromise here. I have all the above going on. Okay, good. Then you're in the right place. Is that there needs to be a compromise here. If you're going to share your adult issues with your kiddos, then you really need to be able to make sense of them. Because one of the things that is not helpful is just to complain or vent or stress in front of them. Because what's happening in the child is emotionally, all they know is that you need to be okay. You need to be okay. Because my survival depends on you being okay, and you going to work and you doing your thing. And especially in a single parent, when there's only one, that becomes probably more intense. So the child starts to feel a stress about making the parent okay. And that is where their codependency will start. So if you're going to talk to your children about your issues or some sort of problem, I always set it up as, I had a difficult time today. And do you mind me talking for a minute? Don't take it personally, but I'm interested in hearing what you have to say, but at the same time, I'm going to help you make sense of it if you listen to me, I will make sense of it afterwards, because sometimes it is important to speak out something out loud and go, okay, I just heard myself say that. Now let me make sense of it. I had these problems with X, Y, and Z. So now I know that I'm feeling this. this and this, and that person's doing this and this. Do you see what I'm saying? You make meaning of it. You don't just let it out and think your kid, is not doing something with it. If you don't make meaning of it, they're going to make meaning of it. And the meaning that a child makes of adult situations is that, oh my God, it's all on me. I'm falling apart. Oh, what a mess. Maybe I can figure it out better than them. I mean, they really do start to take things concretely. Like, you coming to them makes them feel, both a burden, but also importance. So this is a parenting thing that is really kind of complicated. But I say this: if you're in a single parenting situation and you aren't able to get out of that, there's a compromise in between. You need to make sense of your feelings and your adult issues yourself, and then you can present that to the child. And have the family dynamic that way. I always have fuck up stuff. I don't know if you're still here, but it definitely started without a doubt in childhood. Our minds are nascent, sponges of emotional, firing. That's what we kind of start as. And then we're imprinted on by experiences and impressions of the experiences we're having. And we make sense of being human and then make sense of being a self through these experiences. And if they are negative, neglecting, abandoning, what happens is, let me say this, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Oh, wow. I love that. FUD. Should I write that down? I'm not a big acronym person, but I know that that's part of this work. So, meaning teaching. I like that. FUD. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And that's not funny, but I think that the point is that fear is actually the most primitive. Obviously, it's connected to anxiety. Tons of emotions in little bodies. And then environmental factors. Absolutely. You're getting this 100%. So I really feel that what I was going to say is fear, uncertainty, and doubt are the residual emotions. They are what came up during times of feeling out of control, right? Feeling that the person around you is going to implode or is not safe or is you're in an uncertain, unsafe situation and abandoned. And it actually happens. It actually happens. It's not that you're imagining this. We really, as children, are having these experiences and unable to make change occur. We're not adults yet. So fear, uncertainty, thank you for that, and doubt, those are the residual effects of those kinds of experiences. But I will say this, that was the thing, is that how our mind forms is the superego or the inner authority forms from the first time we hear the word no. Starts forming, right? So and we know the first time we hear no, like little kids, you both experience a moment of panic and shame. That's when shame as a feeling starts coming about. And then what happens is you start wanting to say no. You want to take issue as a child. No, I don't want to do that. No. Or you can say no, I can say no. It's this kind of interesting dynamic when the baby turns it on you. But that's the dynamic within the superego. There's a part of you that feels shamed and punished, and there's a part of you doing it. And that's this pedal exchange that if your parents were not people, both, that could represent authority that you respected, maybe you saw your parents as people that were really out of line, not respectable, behavior, all sorts of things. A child can make that judgment. Then you don't have a good representation for a superego. you're basically left with looking around to, okay, how do I know what's right and wrong? How do I judge something? And a lot of times religion has a strong superego presence. School, obviously, teacher, rules, anything like that has a very serious superego presence and authoritative presence. And the parent can also have a very punitive style of punishing, of yelling, of screaming. And here we go. This is us, straight into, the soft material, forming an aspect of superego in our minds that does this to ourselves. As codependent people, this is the real issue, is that we're really nice, accepting, empaths, all sorts of things of other people. They can do no wrong. But when we need to have any amount of self-feedback or scrutiny or understand ourselves or ask for help, boom, we're slapped down. No, you can't have that. You are not, that is going to make you look weak. You have to be able to do it yourself. And on we go. I mean, and that's where we really get into trouble. And we can start to feel that we've done something wrong and that we're not good enough and that we're even self-rejecting. So if we don't have any, let's go back to this, self-esteem, we have very little. There's no container there. Then what's going to happen is we're not going to be able to speak up to that part of us, like I just said in the post, which is, or the video. It was like, okay, wait a second. I sense a contrast here. There's a serious judgment voice, self-critical, obsessive thought, punishing. I'm getting depressed. I'm withdrawing. I'm worried. I'm a failure. I give up. I hate it. Oh my God, it goes on, right? When you allow that kind of authority in your own mind to take over, it can crush you and you have no objectivity to it because there isn't a self-esteem there. There isn't an understanding of, wait a second, I love myself. I have confidence in myself. I actually have authority over myself and I'm good. Whatever is going on right now, I need to assess objectively. I don't need to assess this with this judgment, super ego. Those thoughts come in and they take over. They're very powerful and people don't stay aware because there's nothing to contrast inside of themselves that says this experience is absolutely not in alignment with who I am. Because it treats you at such a negative level. And I see people really regress when they start to have issues or bouts of like inner authority or super ego self-punishment. So now I've got a yes. Anybody else relate to what I'm saying? Anybody else have some questions about that? I think I'm kind of done talking, other than I could talk about those line items. The one that my head is kind of over that I think is really important is perfectionism and pleasing others and giving up on yourself or giving up yourself. What do you think? Anybody want to make a comment about how that all sounded? Or that's the thing, is that when I talk, folks, I'm really hoping that you're listening in a reflective way, that you're having free association or you're having free associative thoughts that help you connect the dots. Like, oh yeah, I recognize that, and that connects that, and that connects to that. That's therapy, by the way, even though this isn't. That's how we work. This is me, I do for others. Yes. And then you don't have, and why? Why only for others? Why can't you do for yourself? I think that's also a superego issue. Is over-explaining decisions or choice from codependency needing the validation? if you mean like you made a decision that wasn't in alignment with what the other person wanted, you made your own decision, and you had to really make sure they understood why and all the different ways, and them saying, okay, yeah, I understand. Thank you for letting me know. Oh, I totally agree. If that's the situation where you try to make a decision, but you have to make sure that they validate it. So you really explain everything as to why you had to make a decision on your own. Yes. Yes. That's definitely part of codependency because of that. What you didn't do in that situation is modulate your guilt. You didn't take necessarily, you weren't aware of your guilt. As soon as a codependent person says, I want to do something different than you, then they're hammered by guilt. And I'm like, we need guilt training. No, stand up. It's okay. Say what you want to do. Oh, the guilt's coming. Take a deep breath, move it away, and go, okay. Do you understand, person that I'm telling? Do you understand? Okay, you do. I mean, getting understanding from the person and them going, sure, great, do your thing. But if they get a little upset or they say sure and they don't mean it, whatever, that's not your responsibility. Your responsibility was stating where you were at and doing that thing and letting that person have the emotions they're going to have. Even if they're not okay later, can't you go like, you said you were okay. Did you have an issue that had anything to do with me? Don't even assume it has something to do with you. So, just join. I still have problems with authority today, being a manager, unless through text. Interesting. Another galaxy. I think that that's really interesting when we can access a part of ourselves that are leaders when we're codependent through, and I was talking about this today again in my masterclass thing, was I think codependent people work so hard and can do so many things and function at such a high level, but this inner authority thing is so screwed up because of the guilt and like it's weak to ask for help and you got to always show up in these ways. But then through text, you can access it. I think if we can access it, it's there. And it's like, what is it through text? What part of you are you not paying attention to is the kind of delineation and compartmentalization you have to do in order to access. And again, I think codependent people are great innovators, workers, managers. I mean, because workers, I'm saying, meaning that they will participate in a team effort. But they have to manage some aspect of themselves in order to stay part of the group and playing. Sometimes I have fear of missing out. Oh, that one is a big one. Yeah. That as far as missing out, that's generally not, again, we're good kind of connecting the dots, but I want you to wonder why. Fear of missing out can be from being left behind, other people having opportunities that you didn't have, but childhood being left behind, abandoned, missing out on the possibility of feeling good and happy and surrounded by others. That's generally what that is. Even though you do the thing, you're by the it's not really satisfying that need. It's just not exposing it. You are codependent and grew up in a codependent family. I have a lot of I have a lot of parents now trying to understand this about themselves because it is a family dynamic. It is being passed along to generations. Having powers mostly at work. It doesn't feel justified. I want to just go back to one thing about another galaxy is that codependency at work or codependent clashing with narcissism and with other aspects of personality defenses So real. I worked in business, for a time, and, it doesn't matter what level. The fact that we don't understand our personalities, ourselves, what we're doing, and how to express ourselves, like communicate, because of these, like the way that we were raised just academically or just to provide work and get reward, is left us, like very lacking. And I know that they're having personal development and all this kind of stuff at work, but I wonder if people are even interested in solving these issues, because I think it's not just the family, it's absolutely at work and in any institution. Shame associated with any expression of self-will, especially when sustained. Absolutely. Yeah, shame. That was, and that was what I was saying earlier, James, and I think you might have been on, but that shame is what's felt instead of a sense of self and self-esteem. Perpetual will towards self-preservance and doing what's good for you needs to be what fortifies you, what fulfills you. But if it's what shames you because you don't haven't built up self-awareness, self-esteem, and your interest in doing these things and for yourself, it's just there's the shame, there's the void, right? The void will be filled with something negative, just like the parent did. Let's see. I keep trying to have friends with low self-esteem and I get betrayed. Ooh. Isn't that interesting, Bailey? It feels like, sometimes codependent folks have this, I'm going to rescue and make you the star. I'm going to rescue and make you the hero. I'm going to make you into something that you've always wanted to be, so you'll be happy, and then you'll take care of me, or that I will be redeemed through your redemption. That might be something that you want to understand if you're trying to do that with your friends, and so you're finding people to do that with. So because that betrayal is in reality, people don't want that. I can't help somebody even that comes to therapy and says, oh yeah, I want to work on this. I say, okay, here are the processes. Let's start talking about this. And oh, I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about that. Well, so you cannot help somebody even if they ask for help unless they want to. You can build, the self-esteem building is I call it kind of a micro process of, you need to start with something small. And as far as self-awareness is concerned, you need to give yourself something. You need to see your needs as just as important as others. And then start to give yourself something, whether that's trying to make a new friend or trying to, I know that might be a reach as far as, but we can go more experience near to yourself. What are you not doing for yourself that you really want to? You got to start with whatever works for you, but it has to be for you. And then you feel a little bit better. And you keep doing things for yourself that are part of what it is you want for yourself in a positive way. And this incremental feeling better, do that thing. And mindfulness, meditation, there's so many things. Being creative, but you've got to give yourself that time and invest in yourself in that way. And what I find is over time, when people start doing that, they have, again, now built up their own container of idea of self, and they can see these negative experiences in such a different light. They're like, wow, what's going on over there in my own mind? Because they have this positive part of them built up. Things that they want to do, things that they're interested in, decisions that they've made for themselves. That don't have anything to do with relationships, don't have anything to do with anyone else, only you. You want. So that's the build. Thank you for the rose. That's really, once you start working on your self-esteem, folks, know that anything that's matching low self-esteem in relationships, in jobs, in everything, is going to start to pull out of balance. And you're going to need to start making decisions to stay in alignment with the positive person that you're becoming. Yes. If I try to push through it and being myself, I was squashed by shame. Yeah, well, in the family dynamic, absolutely. Absolutely, Mindy. If you try to push through something with a family that absolutely can't help you with feelings, they are completely I have to stay in ignoring, I can't see the problem, I have to deny it, it's too big, it's too gross, it's too whatever. You can't grow in that environment. It's impossible. So that's the problem with childhood is that we stay in that situation for quite a few years. I thought that was going to be a good person. Oh, right. With codependency. Yeah. Yeah. You definitely do. You are convinced, by the way, and understanding codependency masterclass I just did was like, wait a second. Childhood is all about reinforcing being good. You get grades. Oh, I did it. You get all these little perks and reinforcements and rewards. And as a kid, you don't need money, so that's worth gold. And you keep on, developing this personality and this effort and this way of being in the world to get at least some gratification from school. Again, this is codependency is very much about surviving and getting resources emotionally for ourselves to feel good about ourselves and continue to grow when we can't get them at home. We have to water ourselves. We have to, grow somehow. So if school provides us with this, but through people pleasing and hard work and efforts, okay, cool. I'll develop that aspect of myself. I can be good. But in real life, as adults, that doesn't work. You can set yourself up in the exact same way, and the results are not going to be the same. There's nobody giving you an A. There's no gold stars. There is just exhaustion on the other end of a codependent mindset in adult life. Husband told me I'm obsessive and out of control with trying to learn to heal and stop being codependent. Oh. What do you think about that, Brittany? When people tell me what their spouses say or what their spouses do or what their partner says, I'm really not in the business of taking sides or calling spades, but you need to tell me what you think and the meaning you're making out of him saying something like that to you. Yes, I was always a good person, have resented myself my entire life. That's so clearly the codependent dilemma. You're living in two different realities. And all that resentment, all that aggression is something that the good person can't have. So you're split. And a lot of times what I have to do and what people have to do in codependency is see that there's a lot of aggression that needs to be understood, integrated, not taken out on the self anymore, not split off and not looked at, not projected when you get mad, but really, over time, understood, modulated, worked with, spoken about way before it becomes a ball of fire. Aggression's tough, but it generally is one of the most important aspects of our psyche that must be dealt with as far as emotions are concerned, because the good person has made it into a monster that needs to be dealt with. Absolutely. Thank you so much. I love and I really am passionate about this subject. I really think it's so important because we're suffering in so many ways. There's so many emotional consequences for this that just keep on getting perpetuated. I'm like, why aren't more of us talking about it? I know a lot of us talk about narcissism, and that's not really, there's a place that stops. This, I believe we can heal through education And I'll talk about it until I can't talk about it anymore. I'm in a toxic relationship. If you're saying it, I'm buying it. What happens when we enter a relationship with somebody while we're codependent? And so we set up expectations in that relationship that are unrealistic. We say, oh, we're a giver. Oh, we're going to take care of you. Oh, we're helpful in these ways. Oh, we don't need anything. Oh, what can I provide you? And they become complacent and indifferent to anything that you want to do. Oh, now you want to be different? Now you want to change? Now you want to start communicating? Now you need something? Oh, you're obsessing. You're whatever. I'm going to accuse you. I'm going to gaslight you. Whatever. You're taking this too far. We're just fine. No. If you can't grow in a relationship and the person doesn't want to grow with you, they just want to accuse you of being obsessive or call you names or whatever. No, person. I'm not. I want to heal, and I want you to want to do this work too, because that's what a relationship is. There's no such thing as a relationship that people aren't growing in. Otherwise, it becomes very stale, very toxic, and very platonic. So, yeah. And so I think that in these situations, you got to keep growing. This is what you're doing for you. And if that person absolutely does not, then they don't want to be in a relationship. They want to be in a situation with you that you accommodate their needs and they accommodate some idea of what they think you want. But it's not a relationship. Relationships, we get to frustrate each other a little bit to grow. But the codependent person is not always right. It just means that, wait a second, what do you have to say too? What do you have to contribute? That's not contributing. Calling me names and telling me I'm upset, and that's not contributing. What's contributing is saying, hey, I know you're talking about, let's say there's any validity at all. I know you're talking about that a lot. Can we set maybe a time limit that we can discuss this and then we can do something that helps me relax? Something like that, if he wants to communicate effectively. And by the way, I have a masterclass that's free on my website that's called 6 Steps to Improving Communication with Your Partner, that will help you to actually, it's like a template that I lay out where it helps you start a conversation in a very proactive, non-defensive way and stay objective throughout the conversation with a partner that is defensive and can try to push your buttons. My growth timing is not okay, right? Because he's busy at work. Yeah, well, the busy at work, the find time for you, absolutely. That's a toughie, again, we always have to integrate reality, but that doesn't mean that you don't express hey, I can respect that you're tired and that you've come home from work or that you've been working, but can you also give me some space and respect to know that I'm not needing anything from you, but I am wanting to connect with you and share with you where I'm at. And then maybe you can do the same, because in this free masterclass thing is it's not really it's not supposed to be me dump on you and you dump on me. It's you hear me and listen to me proactively, and I want to do the same for you. And there should be time at the end of your day to connect without feeling you're dumping on or exhausting someone. That is not the dynamic. And if you're saying he's too tired, so I feel guilty for needing something from him, then that is codependency. And you've got to go, whoops. Nope, not going to go there. That's a guilt-originated thought. I am going to move out of that space. And I'm going to go and say something. And maybe a new outcome will happen other than me isolating. My website is in the bio. It's just biancagrace.com. And I have a really affordable membership that I launched this whatever, the 1st. And so there's meditations on there that I've recorded personally. There are, I'm going to have coaching sessions so I can actually see you guys and gals on live coaching sessions. You can definitely get more in depth about what you're doing. You'll have more support too. There's a group there. And what else? Oh, and I did a masterclass today, but because nobody had really signed up yet, I went ahead and pre-recorded it, so it will be available to anybody who signs up. Next month, hopefully we'll have a strong enough crew to have a live masterclass, which is really, it's like a learning experience. It's like a classroom kind of experience, and you get to, but I like to make it super interactive, kind of like what I'm doing now. Thank you, Talk About It, for asking and getting me talking about it, because I get going on this and I forget to tell you. I mean, but the whole point why I made that community is to do this. I mean, to do this work at a level that actually will help you grow. You do need, I think we all do, need continuous guidance and support until we're ready to move on ourselves. There is a process to this that requires quite a bit of understanding, because you can see there's a lot to it. And there's a lot we didn't, cover even today. So that's the point, is that we don't want to cover it all in one sitting anyway. We want to take something that we can understand and practice it, and be patient with ourselves in doing that. It is common to shift from sensing rejection, seeking validation, experiencing trauma, and then preemptively rejecting them. Absolutely. In the way that you're explaining that, I'm just going to put out there as like a cycle, not the cycle of abuse, but there's a codependent cycle of trauma that's a lot like it. And that's exactly what you're describing in my mind, is that the codependent on a dormant level, meaning like where it's in the okay phase, actually is picking up and is preoccupied with sensing rejection from people in their family, people around them, people, their coworkers, friends, whatever it is. And they're sensing, is it this, is it that, is it this, is it that, and they're, okay, well, yes, definitely. And then seeking validation. If they can't get everything's okay, I'm fine, then the panic level starts to rise. And that's when the trauma response hits. And then here we go. We don't want to experience that, so I got to go. I'm out. I'm done. F you. And now there is the rejecting them. I got to leave before you can leave me, because that is the worst nightmare that I can imagine, even though it's probably not going to happen. Struggling with my self-worth and getting a job post-separation. Yes, working really in a capacity, then I would say only work on things like mirror work. Really focusing on self-love, affirmations, talking to yourself in that way, and overcome, because when you have that job kind of stress, hey, I know I look like it, right, with my turtleneck and this freaking podium. The stress definitely has this way of doubling down. So I say only work on self-worth when you are struggling there. Don't work on, how can I be the best interviewer? Or interviewee. That's jumping over. Yes, inactive addiction. My husband was very verbally abusive, and now he is sober, and I find myself rejecting to protect me. I can reject you. Yeah. That is really, that is so important for you to recognize. And I think a way to modulate that is notice that you're doing it. Notice that you're in that sensing rejection mode. And if he's cool with it, I mean, sometimes you can't do that. You can't ask the person because you're like, hey, so are you feeling really bad about me right now? They'd be like, what are you talking about? But you wait. So in some ways, you're always like self-checking anyway. You're waiting for them to smile and like, oh, they're fine with me. Instead of, oh, they might be in a bad mood and don't feel like smiling. Okay, that's not about me. That's the kind of thing you got to do with your spouse. But I also think that sometimes asking is like, I'm going to admit to this kind of confirmation, but this bias going on in my head, and I'm going to ask a question. Please just listen. And I don't need a lot of consoling, but you can sometimes, if you open up about it, it makes it real. It brings it down to size. Instead of waiting for the big thing to happen, and then you feel like, oh my God, what did I just do? So I always preemptively be vulnerable sometimes and communicate it. Sometimes you need to self-soothe and modulate it within your own mind, going, I see that these things are happening. I know it's part of that cycle. Deep breath. I'm okay. They're okay. What indication am I looking for? What? And I think being so objective, like getting like uber objective of codependent pattern thoughts is really the only way. Like I call a spade, and it's my own thought pattern all day long. Like I have to like mini process, I call it micro processing. I really like if I'm having a thought that's derailing me, like I had a record this masterclass today and it was exhausting me and I started to feel like the creeping, oh, this is too much. Oh, I can't. Yeah. Now, victim, hopeless, stick to your work and focus. And you've got this, and it's going to be just fine. It doesn't have to be perfect. So talking my way through it, validating myself instead of having, asking anybody else to do that for me or give it up. So, yes. And I think our anger and codependency and anger and rejection and fear and abandonment, all these negative emotions are what we have to work on. It's not easy. But you can, by the way, like you don't have to talk to somebody in an angry state. And then I'm going to finish this up. Probably last thing is anger takes you out of your thinking mind. Yeah, and that is a problem. What is that last line in the line of back? Pleasing others and giving up yourself. And that's a lot about actually even perfectionism. So that dynamic getting absolutely. So if getting out of anger, you got to take 5. You got to take a deep breath. Go and watch something that makes you laugh. Do something emotionally different, and then go. What is that? Ask yourself. Oh, your husband is. Oh, well. I feel he's angry. Well, you feel he's angry. Well, now I think that you're presumptive, possibly, or assuming, because a lot of times in codependency, we do assume other people's feelings before, okay, you feel it. It sounds like, oh, and he can't. Are you, he is tough. Okay. Yeah. Well, I think if somebody's angry, then this is the thing, is like, maybe they're in a bad mood, they're grumpy, they're angry, they don't want to face their feelings, they're not that kind of guy. Oh no, later he's like, oh yeah, I am. Well, then you got to just wait for that point where he recognizes that, where he sees that in himself. That's exactly it. Don't panic. He's going to come around to figuring it out himself. Let it go. You got it. You know what? You got to come and watch the masterclass I did today. I swear. I really think that so many of these questions can be understood in this process of healing, because there are just techniques for letting go, not having to worry about it, take control of it. So Absolutely. And look, and there's a softening most likely. Well, Debbie, he needs some help, and that can't be a partner or a friend if somebody's overloaded and becomes very mean. So that's not your fault, and that's not for you to fix. That's for you to guide him on to getting help, because it's not going anywhere. That's a hard situation, I know. But if it makes you uncomfortable, you need to follow that feeling and be self-protective. All right, everybody. I so loved the interaction and all that you are bringing to this. It's hard for him to address. Yes. And men have been taught not to speak to those emotions, but drink them away, hold them in, beat themselves up, all sorts of things. So we don't want to be part of that problem. We want to turn that around, but they have to want to. Okay? Have them watch Codependency for Men skits on my feed. All right. Love you all, and I will see you again soon. Absolutely. And stay healing and considering this stuff, because you're on the right track. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.